Samsung Z lineup is all about flipping and folding. You got the Flip, which is kind of like a fun phone to use. It's not really made for power users. And then you have the Fold, which is made for power users who want to get the most out of their phone. This is my hometown, Detroit, Michigan. And let me show you how I use the Fold. I've been reviewing phones for a very long time, and it's rare that a phone fundamentally changes the way I use my phone. But the Z Fold4 is that. And that's not a crazy statement at all. In the hand, it's a big phone, but honestly, the way I want to use my phone, it makes sense. If the size does bother you a bit, then maybe you consider a Flip or even a phone from another company. But for me, I don't mind the brick in my pocket, because knowing what that brick can do for me is huge. I typically don't like big phones, but since this big phone allows me to do more, it just kind of makes sense. Now, when I don't need to do big brick things, I could then use the outside display. That's called the cover screen. This lets me do things like check emails, reply to a quick text, scroll on a timeline, you know, things that don't need a full screen to do. But when I need to do more, then I can simply open the display and do more. Samsung's idea of having one device for everything, I think, is ambitious, to say the least. But I think with the Z Fold4, they're pretty close to it. Now, the Z Fold3 definitely had some gripes, and the Z Fold4 is here to address those things. Like, for example, the cover screen. It's a little bit wider to make it more one-handed friendly, and also the foldable display is that much brighter that you can use it in any scenario. I mean, the Z Fold4 is the closest thing to a complete device that you could find. But is it enough to be just this one device for everything you do? On paper, the Z Fold4 definitely has everything you can need in a phone. It's fast, it's fluid, it has great performance for everything, including gaming. And the camera, I think, is pretty solid too. But having such a large screen at your disposal is what makes this phone so special. I've been pretty lucky to have travel planned when the phone came to my doorstep to review, so I've been able to put it through its proper paces. In the hand, day to day, the Z Fold4 size does not seem to be a hindrance. Sure, it's the size of two phones smashed together, but it fits in my pocket without a problem. When the main display is fully open, it feels like a solid device, and I have no reason to think that it won't last for a while. There is a crease down the middle, but it's something you truly don't think about when using the phone. This phone is water resistant, but it's not dust resistant. So once again, if dust gets in that area, it can definitely get within that hinge and it may cause a problem. So if you're a person that is in that rugged environment, you should probably stay away from this phone still. There's a fingerprint scanner on the power button, which just makes sense, but you can also get into the device just by looking at it as well. This phone is an absolute engineering marvel, and Samsung should definitely be proud. I do know Samsung has more tricks up its sleeve with folding displays, so I wouldn't be too shocked next year if we see a complete overhaul in design. So that's something to be thinking about too. This phone may not get the brightest outside compared to other flagships, but using it in direct sunlight, I've never had an issue seeing what I needed. Performance is a topic that comes up in reviews all the time. At this point, all the phones are great, right? I spend so little time talking about performance because they all perform well. The phone uses the latest Snapdragon chip, so you know it's gonna be fast. And so was the Fold3, right? Phones are fast now. Nothing changes there. The Fold lineup also has more RAM than typical phones to allow for advanced use cases, like having 3 apps opened at once, or having 4 if you want, for whatever reason. I think Samsung is just sort of showing off at this point, but having 2 apps open at once is really nice on this device. For me, having Telegram and YouTube open is something that I do a lot, and when football season comes around, I definitely will be doing that, or maybe even 3 with fantasy football. Having scores on one screen, then having YouTube TV, and then having something else on a different one, I think that makes sense. The phone literally makes me use my computer less, and it lets me be more creative in ways that I want to use my phone. Being able to see so much at one time and do so many things at the same time has made me more productive from my phone. The software makes the Fold feel more like a tablet than ever, with the apps bar at the bottom that you can easily open a second app or a third app, and you can switch apps without even having to minimize anything. It just makes everything that much more efficient. And then you have flex mode that enables you to, close the phone halfway to have more content on one side of the phone to the other while giving you controls at the same time. So for example, like if I'm in gallery, I can go between the photos just by dragging my finger back and forth. If I'm in YouTube, I have it half open, half closed. Then the video takes up the first half and the bottom half is all the things like the like button and subscribe button. Speaking of which, give it a try. Hit like and subscribe. Let's see if that button works. So those things aren't a huge deal, but it's a different way for me to use the phone. I wish more apps would tap into this, but this is up to the app developers to make it happen. It's such a cool feature, but sadly, most of my apps do not support it, so it's something I can't use a lot. So we have a super cool powerhouse phone that is made for productivity, but there's also a social aspect to phones, and we're talking about the camera. I will say camera is the most subjective thing that any reviewer can talk about. I can go on and on about specs, but I've had a lot of time with the camera, so I will show you the images this thing can make. It's not the most powerful camera system in the world, but I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything when using this phone. People like to talk about the bad in-display camera. It's not great, but for video chats, it's fine. I've done plenty of Telegram calls. I've did a couple Zoom calls with it, and it came out pretty good. And you really shouldn't be using it when taking selfies. And what I mean by that is that there is a trick that can help you use the back camera. So you can actually use the main cameras as your selfie camera just by activating the screen in the camera app, which will then let you use the best cameras on the phone to take a selfie. I'm actually okay with the camera system. Sure, the S22 camera system is better, the Pixel takes better portrait, and the iPhone video is better. And not many cameras check all the boxes, but not many provide something unique. So with it being a fold, obviously it folds, right? But I really enjoy using it in its half fold mode. What I mean by that is that you can use this as like a mini tripod. Like, check this out. That right there is dope. Being able to set the fold down and have it half open and half closed to take the perfect shot whenever you want. And you can get yourself these unique angles that you normally can't get from any other phone. All day battery life is subjective. What is your day? How many apps do you run? Do you run big apps? What's your screen on time? Things like that matter so much more than saying all day battery life. So that segment you just watched, I didn't have a chance to travel with the phone, but it was just how I normally use the phone day to day. And by that standard, I can get a full day out of it with no problems at all. Take it off the charger around 7 a.m. and by the time I'm going to bed around 11 p.m., I still have battery life. That's all day battery life. However, using this phone as my only device for a whole day and not split between a computer or any other devices, it did struggle getting me through a long day of travel. I found myself at around 9:30. I did have around 20% of battery and it was something I needed to plug in. Granted, this wasn't a typical day. I was traveling and I was doing things and I was on the phone a lot, but that is where fast charging comes into play. And having that fast charging was really great, being able to bump my battery life back up to where I needed it to kind of head back out. Now, I just spent a lot of time talking about this phone, and I guess in conclusion, for the right person, this phone can change the way you phone. It's not perfect, but the way it works and the things you can do and how productive you can actually be, there isn't anything really like it. It's an expensive phone at $1,800, so make sure you are trading in devices to bring that price back down, or consider the Z Fold4, which is almost the same phone. But for me, the Z Fold4 is the best phone experience I've ever had because the way I use it. If you're not sure if foldables are a thing yet, well, let me tell you, it's a thing. And it's better than the thing that you have in your pocket right now. I guarantee it. It's Kevin the Tech Ninja here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe. I'll see you folks later.